everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and I felt this urge to do a vlog. This is going to be the most ambitious vlog I've ever done because I'm going to be vlogging all month long. So what I'm doing, my thought process here was my TBR jar selection this month was Stephen King. And I've been wanting to do some kind of like Stephen King reading vlog for a while now because I really enjoyed when I did that with the Institute like 2 years ago, I think. And I really wanted to do that again. So I was planning on doing that for one of the books this month. But then I thought, you know what might be fun? Since I'm going to be reading multiple Stephen King, what if I talked about like all of them as I read? So you get to see or hear my opinions on reading Stephen King's books right now as I'm reading it. Before I get started, it is the beginning of August. I haven't read any Stephen King yet. This is the start of this whole experience. I grew up reading Stephen King. Like, I got really into his writing when I was like 11, 12 years old. I've been reading it ever since. He was I wouldn't say he was my introduction to horror because that's not accurate. My introduction to horror was probably Christopher Pike, which I found first. And then I read a lot of John Saul. And while I was getting into John Saul, that's when I started reading Stephen King. I had heard of Stephen King practically from birth. I think I'd seen some of the movies before I even got around to reading the books. So I was really excited to like get into it. I'm trying to remember what my first Stephen King was. I'm sure I've said it before in another video and I could probably go look it up, but I don't feel like it. So I'm going to try to, it was either Carrie or The Shining. One of those was my like intro. And I also read it really young. Like I was into reading from birth. Like I was an early reader. I loved books my whole life. So a giant tome like it didn't intimidate me. I read that probably when I was like 13, 14 years old. Loved it. That was one of my favorites for a long time. And I think if you were to ask me my favorite Stephen King, it would be between it and The Stand. So anyway, let's talk about the things I have in my potential reading stack this month. And this is all subject to change based on my whims. I have a lot of Stephen King in the house. Quite a bit that I haven't read yet. I have read a lot of his books, but obviously I haven't read everything. So in my stack, I have some easier ones that I know I can just fly through. I have Elevation, which is I think where I'm going to start because I just found the audiobook too. And I just saw that it's narrated by Stephen. My dogs are so loud. I'm sorry. But I just saw the audio is narrated by Stephen King, which intrigued me because I don't think I've ever like seen that he did that. So that's probably where I'm going to start tonight. I'm going to start the audiobook for this. I'm going to read with my eyes while I listen with my ears. I also have The Long Walk, which I am kind of mad that I've never finished. I DNF'd this a while back, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I was like, I had other things going on and I needed to set this down to go read something else, probably something for work. And I intended to come back and I just never did. So I made it like halfway, but I don't really remember much. So I'm going to definitely start this from the beginning. This, I have no idea what this is. Literally no clue. I have never looked at the synopsis, and I don't think I'm going to. I kind of want to go in not really knowing. I think all I know is this is set in Castle Rock. This is a dystopian about boys who are on this forced march. It's like it's called The Long Walk because that's what it is. It's a contest, and the winner is whoever makes it to the end alive, the last one standing. And you can't go below a certain speed, you have to keep pace, and it goes on for seemingly forever. Like the Hunger Games, there's like some kind of reason to win this, so really curious to see how that actually ends. I have Revival, which I've always meant to read. I've had this on my shelves for absolutely forever, for years. And it bugs me, again, that I haven't picked this up yet. I don't actually know what this one is either, besides I think it has something to do with a preacher. I think. I mean, it's called Revival. That's the vibe that I get. Yeah, it's about addiction, fanaticism, and what might exist on the other side of life. As every book he writes about addiction, isn't that his thing? I did grab a short story collection because I do love his short stories, and one of the ones I haven't read yet is If It Bleeds. I think actually this isn't short stories so much as novellas. There's 4 stories in here. I don't know if this is going to happen, but potentially it could. And then I'm still on the fence with which one of these to do. I know I won't get to both. But do I read 11/22/63 or The Stand? I have already read this. I've never read this, but I've claimed this as my favorite Stephen King for forever, like since I read it. And I haven't read it in a long time. Like I think the last time I read this was in my 20s. And that's been a while. So I kind of want to revisit it, mostly because we just watched the miniseries or the 2020 The Stand, but I could not remember beyond characters what happened in the story. I knew like the very vague basics, but as I'm watching, I'm like, is that how it happened? And I don't know. And that was bothering me. So I kind of want to try to reread it, but it's so big. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm intimidated because I'm not intimidated. I just don't know that I have time. Honestly, do I have time for either of these? They're both ginormous. That is the plan. I've got a lot of Stephen King going on this month. I'm kind of excited about it because, like, it's been a while. I don't think I've picked up a single Stephen King book in the last, 2 years. I'm trying to remember what the last book I read was. It was either The Institute or The Misery. I read both of those, 2 years ago. But anyway, I'm going to start reading Elevation, and I will come back and start talking about my thoughts once I've gotten into the story. It's so short. I don't think I'm going to finish it tonight because we are going to be doing a family Discord call in a little while, because while Sarah's in Korea, we have a family chat that we do on Fridays. So we do it in the evening because for her it's morning. It's Saturday morning when we talk on Friday night. So we're going to be doing that this evening, but I have an hour or so before we start the call. So I'm going to read until then. I don't know if I'll check back until tomorrow though. But anyway, that is my plan for this month. I'm going to be reading Stephen King. I will be sharing my thoughts with you and maybe other things too. I don't know. But that's the goal. Lots of Stephen King. Let's go. Hey guys, it's Saturday. I started Elevation last night. I only read the first chapter, but I don't know what I thought I was getting, but it's not that. I'm intrigued. Basically, the vague synopsis I can give you is this man is losing weight, but his body shape is the same. Nothing about him looks different, except that he's just every day losing pound after pound after pound, even with clothes on, even while holding weights and stuff. His body weight is less. And he doesn't understand why. He's talking to a doctor friend and he doesn't understand why, but he doesn't want tests done. None of that. There's also another story happening with these 2 women who live in Castle Rock who are lesbians. They're married. They've opened a restaurant and their business isn't going well because people don't like them for being lesbians who are married. So there's this whole thing with that. And your main character is seeing this happen and doesn't agree with it. So I don't know where exactly this is going. It doesn't feel like horror. So I don't think it's one of his horror stories. I think this is more in line with how The Green Mile has some magical elements to it, but is overall more of a drama. like that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be like that. I will update you more later. I am just now sitting down to start my book club live stream. We're going to be talking about Wayward. And so that's what is about to happen now. We're going to go live in, I think, like 5 minutes. So I made some tea, which I'm afraid to pick up and show you because it's very hot. Okay, I've got tea. I made like a peach oolong, and I'm just sort of sitting down to like gather my thoughts, get my notes together, all of that jazz. And then, yeah, we're going to do a live show. I think my husband and I are going to go run some errands. So I am hoping to finish Elevation today. I just don't know when I'm going to get to it. Probably late this afternoon, this evening. I'm definitely going to finish it today, though, because it's short and I already finished a good chunk of it. Like the first chapter was like 45 pages long. So like, I feel like, I think the audio, I only have like an hour and 20 minutes or something left. So definitely going to finish that today. And I'll let you know what I think. Because right now I don't know yet. I have no idea where the story's going to go. Like I went into this super blind and I really don't know what's going to happen. And so yeah, I'll update you later. But right now, live show. So see you later. I already got 2 people waiting. So excited. Sometimes I worry that I'm like going to be alone in a live show. So always excited to see that there are people who are coming and are excited to talk about the book with me. So this is my view, by the way. I mean, obviously I haven't set it up all the way yet, but yeah, this is what I see when I go live. So good afternoon. It is now Monday afternoon, and it took me days to finish Elevation. But I did finish it last night. It was late by the time I did, and I did not feel like turning on my camera. So, I finished Elevation last night, and I'm still kind of contemplating my thoughts. This is what do I want to say? More of a literary, like, drama kind of a story. More in line. It's like Stephen King's books aren't all horror. He does write a lot of horror, but not everything he writes is horror. And the fact that this got labeled as horror confuses me because it's not at all. If you go into this expecting to be scared, if you expect some gore or anything like weird and gross, you're going to not enjoy your time with it. But if you go in with very little expectation, it's an interesting story. Okay, so there is like an element of like weirdness in that you have a character who is essentially losing weight but not body mass. So like they look the same. He appears to be an overweight 6 foot tall man, but the scale keeps dropping every day. So like he's gradually losing weight, and it's anything he's holding is also losing weight. So he knows that he's becoming weightless, and what will happen, he doesn't know. And that's a big element of the story, is like him coming to terms with what's happening to him, not really understanding it. And you're not going to understand it because it's never explained. But then there's also the storyline with the 2 women who he is trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do. He's trying to help them with their restaurant. He's trying to like get people to change their minds about them and not be so bigoted and that sort of thing. Because there's a lot of like homophobia with the people in the town. So that is a trigger warning in here if you are worried about something like that. That is an element of the story. It's not a big element of the story, like it's talked about. I think there's only like one scene with people being directly homophobic, but it is there. But the story itself is pretty bare bones. Like, it's short. Yeah, this is less than 150 pages. It's 146 pages. The story itself is very brief. So the thing with short stories and the thing with novellas is that a lot of weird stuff might happen, but there's not really time to explain it. So if you are the kind of person who wants to know everything about what's happening in a book, you're not going to like this because most of it is just like, well, this is a thing that's happening. So, I mean, but it was interesting. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't my favorite thing I've read by Stephen King. It was an interesting premise, but overall, it didn't really blow me away or anything. I didn't feel super invested in any of the characters and what was happening. It was interesting to read, but overall, just fine. So this was a 3-star for me. So I'm moving on. I think tonight I'm going to start reading The Long Walk. I said before, this is a book that I have already started in the past. I don't know when, several years ago. And I ended up DNFing it, not out of boredom, but just out of I needed to do something else and pick something else up at the time. And I just never came back to it. So I'm really hoping to get through the whole book this time and see what I think. This is the one I was the most intrigued by because it's dystopian and I really enjoy a good dystopian book. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to like this. All I remember from when I read this before was that it's about, you're following one character, Ray Garrity, I think is the main character. So Ray is a part of this long walk contest, and the goal is to get to the end of the walk. I don't remember how long it is. I don't know if they ever said at the beginning. I'll report back on that. But it's really long and really arduous, and you cannot go below a certain pace. You have to keep pace with the group. If you don't, you're killed. And basically, if you make it to the end, you win. And there's a prize. There's a reason that people are entering this. And, like, there's some good thing that they get at the end. But, like, I don't know where the story goes. So I'm going to start this tonight. And I'll let you guys know what I think of it. So I'll check back later. I read the first 2 chapters of The Long Walk just now. And I've already read it. Most of it was familiar. So, The Long Walk was originally a Bachman book. There's like a little essay at the beginning about like the history of how Bachman came about and that sort of thing, which was kind of interesting. I don't think I read that the first time. I think I skipped it because it's like not really part of the story, but it was really interesting to read. And I love the idea of how he sees this pen name as a separate person. He even wrote a book like that, The Dark Half, so that was kind of cool to see that was like where the idea for The Dark Half came from. Anyway, so 2 chapters in, don't really know a whole lot besides the fact that it is in fact a long walk. They've already done about like 8 miles in the first 2 chapters or something within that realm, and there is much more to go. Basically, they just walk until there's only one person. So it depends on like how this goes. Like if everyone dies in the next like 2 miles, then there's only one left, then it's over basically. So the rules of The Long Walk is basically just don't slow down. There are like little things about like how slow you get, how many penalties you can get within a certain amount of time, and walking off your penalties and that sort of thing. But overall, it's literally just don't slow down, keep your pace, walk until you can't, and then keep walking some more so that you don't die. And from what I understand in the story, like the long walk is just a thing that's been happening forever. We don't really understand. I don't know if it's going to get explained later why this started, why people sign up for it, because there's a lot of people. There's 100 boys in this walk. 100 boys signed up. You have to be under 18. And I understand there's like, you could win a lot of money and that sort of thing, but like, it seems risky. It gives me Hunger Games vibes, except in the Hunger Games, you are chosen. In the long walk, you are making the choice to join. Like you sign up and you join the long walk and hope to win, I guess. So it's interesting. And I kind of hope we get a little bit more of the history of it in the story. Probably won't. I don't know. I don't know how deep this is going to go into the lore of The Long Walk, but I find the premise interesting, especially the fact that they choose to do it. And like there are crowds cheering them on as they're walking, and sometimes the crowds witness somebody getting shot, and I just like I can't fathom. They like bet on who they think will win. So like this is similar to the Hunger Games and that concept of like audience participation, and that they're picking their winner, they're cheering people on, that kind of thing. It's interesting. So I will try to finish this in the next few days. It's not very long, but I have a lot going on this week, so I'm hoping I can make this happen. Good morning. It is Thursday. I had to think for a moment, like, what day is it? It's Thursday morning, and this has nothing whatsoever to do with my Stephen King vlog that I'm, like, my project that I'm doing with that, but I was looking over all my reading challenges today and figuring out, like, what is left? What do I need to finish and to read to complete these? I'm doing the Build Your Library Reading Challenge and an Alphabet Challenge. So like I'm reading a book for every letter of the alphabet. So one of the things that I'm going to knock out right now, I'm so excited. I needed a book of nature poetry, and I need to read outside. I'm not great at reading outside. I get really distracted and unfocused, but I found a book that I think will work for me, and I'm really excited about it. So I just read The Home Place by J. Drew Lanham and loved it. It's a memoir he wrote about his experiences as a Black man with loving nature and birding and like his experiences with the land and that sort of thing. And it was really, really good. I highly recommend. And I just discovered he has a book of nature poetry about birds. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. So it's called Sparrow Envy. And I just started it, and it's so good. So I'm going to go outside. I'm going to read this book and knock out 2 prompts. I'm so proud of myself. Well, I will be once I actually do it. But that is my plan for this morning. So I'm also, today and yesterday were both kind of lazy days because I've like almost finished level 10. I had to pass it off to my husband. He's doing some proofreading and stuff, formatting stuff. And so I don't really have anything to do with that for the next little bit. So I'm taking today, again, as like a sort of break. I'm also working on lesson planning for Regina for 9th grade because that's happening in a few weeks. So I need to like get all my ducks in a row for that. But this morning is for reading nature poetry about birds in the outdoors. So that's what I'm about to go do. I apologize for all of the wind. I am outside. But today is Friday. I'm being attacked by my dogs because they're like, Mom's outside. Hi. So, Spike, you want to say hi? Spike? So I have read a little more from The Long Walk. I would say I'm almost halfway. And that's about where I stopped the last time. So I'm curious to see what happens next. So like I'm at the point in this, like first of all, I find it really interesting. I don't think I've read any of the other Bachman books. I'm trying to think. I know I've seen the movie for Thinner, but I don't think I've read it. So something that I mean, it's mentioned in the little essay at the beginning, but it's something that I'm definitely noticing is that he considers Bachman to be meaner than he is in his writing. Like he's more cruel to his characters and stuff. And so like I'm definitely seeing that. Like the premise of the story is just that these boys are on this long walk, and you walk until there's only one left. And they can't stop. Like it's a non-stop walk until everyone's dead, basically. And it's such a bleak scenario, but these boys choose to do it. And the fact that you can write an entire novel about people walking is just interesting to me. Like, there's not a lot of like plot in the story. You're really just following these characters as they're on this journey, as they're on this walk, and like what's happening to them and what's happening to all the boys around them. And like, you're really only following one character, but you're in his head a lot, but you're also like hearing what's happening around him to everybody else. And it's a really interesting character study kind of a story. And I don't know where it's gonna go. Like, I kind of think I know where it's gonna go, but I don't know for sure that I'm right, because anything could happen. But it's such a bleak story, and I really hope, I don't know that we will, but I hope that we get more information about what's happening here and why they're doing this. Like, I want to know what this world is like, because it feels kind of like everyone else lives a pretty normal life, and this is just like a random thing that happens once in a while. And like, I've read stories like that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like The Lottery, where like it seems like a nice normal place, except we do this weird thing once a year. And like, I don't know, it's got a lot of Hunger Games vibes, where you're only really in one person's head and experiencing it through that one person. And so you don't necessarily get to know, which is a little bit frustrating, because I do want to know like why and what's the purpose, and like who came up with this and how long has it been going on. And like, there's so many things. Like, one of the characters is like, I've been looking forward to doing the long walk my whole life. And I'm like, why? You've seen this, you know what happens, like, why? And there's like other people who are like doing the walk, but saying like, I don't really think anybody wins. I think whenever the last person standing is, they get killed too. And like, so like, there's a lot of like, nobody really knows, but also everyone wants to be in on it, and it's really interesting. So that's where I'm at with this. I grabbed my Kindle and I came outside this afternoon. I wanted to do it this morning, but it was too wet out because it rained last night. And so like, I waited all day for everything to dry out so I could sit on a chair. But now I'm gonna finish reading Sparrow Envy so that I can knock out those 2 prompts. So I read a little over half of it yesterday, so I'm gonna finish it up today. And yeah, that's my plan. I did a live stream this afternoon, so I spent the whole morning like preparing myself for that. I'm such a weirdo. Like, I can do a video, I can talk to a camera, fine, but the idea of being live, of not being able to edit myself, sends me into a panic. So like, I can do it. I know I can do it. I've done it before, but like, I still like freak myself out every time. So like, the whole morning was devoted to like hyping myself up and preparing and getting myself situated. And then I was live for like 40 minutes and then it was done. And it's like, I spent the entire day preparing for 40 minutes. Silly. But anyway, that's done. I ate lunch and now I'm sitting outside and I'm gonna read. So I will check back with you later. Popping in on a Saturday. I have 2 subscriptions I got in the mail in the last day, so I thought I would open them on camera. I'll do my tea first, because this one has been sitting for a little bit. I wanted to open it and see what I have. So this is my Plum Deluxe monthly subscription. I get the single tea option, and I don't know what's going to be. I hope it's good, because the last month's one I did not end up liking. So I really hope this is a good one. Okay, so, ooh, it sounds good. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is Cocoa Caramel Cooler Black. So it says it contains black tea, coconut flakes, and caramel essence. So that sounds like a tea I'm gonna like. So let me smell it. Oh my gosh, open. Oh, that smells really good. Okay, I'm gonna have to make some this afternoon, and it always comes with a free sample of something, and I got Fresh Squeeze Black, which I think I've had that before. So that is my Plum Deluxe tea of the month, but I'm so excited about my Nightworms. I think this has like one of my most anticipated books in it, so let me get some scissors so I can get in here. The first thing I pulled out was some coffee, which I don't drink coffee, but my kids do, so they're going to get to have this. This one's Tropical Terror. Scary folks need a vacation too. And it says it has flavors of coconut with a hint of caramel. So, and it's made locally in Maine. So not locally, I'm not in Maine, but it's not far from us, so it's kind of local. And then there's this little package with a sticker, and this should have some little goodies in it. So the bookmark, the theme is Horror Junkie. So this is the bookmark you get. And then, hold on, just dump this out. Is that everything? Yes. Okay. Oh, look at this little magnet. It's so cute. Look how cute that is. Oh my God, that might be my favorite little magnet they've done. Oh, look at this sticker. That is the cutest. So a bookmark, a magnet, a sticker, and a book plate for whatever book is in here. I know one of the books for sure, because I got a little spoiled, but I was glad that I did because I had that pre-ordered. So it comes with 2 books. This is the one that I'm most excited for. This is Sadie Hartman's newest book, or first book, and it's 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered. I have been anticipating this for ages. I don't even remember when she first started talking about it on her social media, but I've been so excited. So I had pre-ordered it, and it's beautiful. And then I saw it was going to be in the Nightworms. I'm like, of course it's going to be. Why did I not assume? So I canceled my pre-order, and I have this now. I'm so stoked to have it. It is signed by Sadie. And then the other book is one that I haven't heard anything. I've never read anything by Nick Cutter, but I know he's a pretty famous horror author. And it's also by Andrew F. Sullivan, and this is The Handyman Method. So I don't know exactly what this is. So if you've got like some weird home improvement situations going on in this family, I don't know. It sounds weird and kind of interesting, so I'm intrigued. So those are the books that came in my Nightworms this month. I'm very excited. Fun mail day. So I'm going to make some tea, and I'm going to probably go read some more of The Long Walk, because I was listening to it this morning and I don't know where I stopped. Yeah, so I think I made it about to chapter 10 this morning when I was listening. So I am now like closing in on the end. I think I only have like a little over an hour left on audio. So I'm interested to see where the story goes, because honestly at this point, I don't know what's going to happen at the end. I'm really curious. It's just right now, it's literally just a group of boys talking to each other as they're walking and like commentating on what's happening around them and trying to like keep themselves motivated and upbeat. And it's I don't know, it slows down a little in this point in the story. Like I'm starting to get a little bit bored of their just guy conversations. Like, I don't know. I'm hoping we get some more action though, because I gotta imagine at this point, they're all like feeling it. Like they're all starting to feel it. And like they've been walking nonstop for I think something like 85 miles. So at some point in the near future here, I feel like there's going to be a lot of dying happening. So I'm going to finish this up either today or tomorrow, and I will come back to you with my final thoughts on this book. So hello, it is now Sunday, and my goal for today is to get to Barnes & Noble because they're having their book haul, 50% off, bunches of sales happening, and I missed it last year, and I decided this year as my treat for finishing level 10, it's happening. So also, I'm going to finish this today, I think, because I am almost done. I think there's like just about an hour left on the audio and about 100 pages or so. So like I'm at the last quarter of the book, and I'm not enjoying the middle section of the book. It's just, it feels like I'm on this walk with them. It feels a little bit like drudgery, just like suffering through this, but I know that like that's how it's supposed to feel. Like I'm supposed to feel the stress and the pain that they're going through, and it's working. I'm feeling it. So I'm going to finish this today and wrap that up. So let me show you what we got from Barnes & Noble. Regina had a $50 gift card. She already spent it and took her books and ran, so I don't have those to show you, but I'll show you what I got from me. So they have those like Barnes & Noble classic editions of books, and the table was set and they had them buy one, get one half off. So they had the stand in this gorgeous edition, so I felt it was like appropriate to get this month right now. So I have the stand, and it's just super pretty. I love the gold edging. I love the covers on these. They look really nice. And then because I needed to find a second book, I was looking over everything trying to decide, and this jumped out at me. So this is, oh, that's hard to see. Hold on. This is the Great Gatsby, and it's got other works as well by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've only ever read The Great Gatsby, and I've always wanted to read more of his work. So now I have this collection. And then I limited myself because there was a lot of things, but I'm like, I'm only going to get 3 books from the 50% off sale. So the 3 books I got were all things that I had already like on my I really want this book list, but I hadn't bought them yet. First up, I have The God of Endings, and this is by Jacqueline Holland. I've been hearing a lot about this one. If I'm understanding correctly, this is like a vampire story, but it's also kind of like Addie LaRue, and that you're like following this person through time. I don't really know too much more than that, but I'm always down to try out a vampire story, especially if it's got like a lot of historical vibes to it, which I think this might have. Then this one I've had like on my, if I ever see it in the wild, I'm going to buy it list. And I saw it in the wild, so now it's mine. So it's Homestead, a novel by Melinda Moustakis. This is a little bit out of my comfort zone. I think this is a little more literary fiction-y, but it's about a couple who have a homestead in Alaska, which I just think is like one of those places that I want to read more about. And homesteading is something that I've always found like really interesting and intriguing. And so I don't know. I think this is historical too because it's set in the 50s. So I hope that I like it. And then the last book that I got is one that I've been like interested in but hadn't pre-ordered, and that's Venko, a novel by Sherry Dimeline. I don't really know more than that this has to do with witches and it's indigenous, and that's basically all I really know. But I'm in the mood for witchy things lately, so I really wanted to give this a chance. And also, I love this cover. Look at the birds on it. Isn't it pretty? I just think this is really pretty. I keep saying I'm going to read more Sherry Dimeline. I've only read half of The Marrow Thieves because it's another book I picked up, started, and set aside to come back to later. Why am I like this? So, and I really liked it. I don't know why I didn't finish it. So I now own 3, I think, of her books. So perhaps I could like actually read one to completion. I should do that. Really excited to have all of these new books and find space on my shelves, because that's the problem right now, is the lack of space. So now I have these 5 new books with no place to put them. So, well, I do have a place. They're going to go in my book haul stack, which is like right there, right behind me. So they have a home for now, at least. So anyway, I have to do some book sorting for the bookstore, and I'm going to listen to my audiobook. And I guess that's the plan for the rest of my day. Good morning, everybody. It is now Monday morning, and I have a weird shadow on my face because I'm in the window. Okay, let me sit like this. So I finished the long walk last night, and I kind of wanted to like sit with it for a minute before I gave my final thoughts. So I ended up really liking this. I gave it 4 stars. I'm going to try to give my thoughts and try to be coherent but not spoil anything, because I don't know, I'm going to assume this isn't one of his more popular works, so maybe a lot of people haven't read it. I don't know. So this is dystopian. It isn't really horror, but there is a lot of gore. So if that's something that bothers you, you might not enjoy this, because it does get rather descriptive of the deaths and stuff. So like it can be a little gross. Which doesn't really bother me. So like it was more disturbing, I think, is what I would describe this book as. This is a disturbing book, not really a scary book. So the premise is really, really simple. There's 100 boys doing this contest called The Long Walk, and it starts at like the Canadian border of Maine, and it doesn't have an end point. It ends when there's only one left. So the walk might last for 80 miles. It might last for 500 miles. Like, it really just depends on how long it takes for there to only be one left standing. So, you know, at the beginning, everyone's pretty positive that they're the one that's going to win. But like the idea that you could convince 100, and not even 100, because they talk later about how like they have a backup for each walker. So like 200 people were convinced to sign up for this, and you can't be over 18. So these are teenagers. So 200 teenagers and their parents were convinced to do this when you know only one can win. So like the voluntary aspect is what baffles me a little, because I just cannot fathom why anyone would sign up for this. Like, it's kind of like the lottery. Yeah, the prize is great, but your odds are pretty slim. So like, I don't understand why someone would choose to do this, but I mean, the prize is whatever you want for the rest of your life. So that's kind of cool, I guess. But like, as you read this book and you see what's going on and like how these boys are affected by this walk, like it is some very traumatic stuff. Like, it's awful. Like, when you really think about how painful this is, and like that's part of the nature of the story, like the disturbingness of it is that you start to feel uncomfortable while you're reading it. Like, I kept stretching my legs while I was reading. Like, I don't know why I was doing it, but like it made me like appreciate sitting. Also, if you're the kind of person that needs to know a lot of the background, a lot of the world building, a lot of things like that, you will not enjoy this. There is no world building. Like, very little. They explain the walk and what's happening with that, but you're not going to get anything else. So if you want to know like why this is a thing, how long has it been happening, like who are the past winners, what is the rest of this world like, you're not going to find out. So don't go into this expecting that. I will say the end of this book, I think, is perfection. It's so bleak. This book is bleak. If you want a happy ending, this is not for you. So I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. If I had gotten just a smidge more background information, I think it might have been a 5-star, but I gave it 4. While I was having breakfast this morning, I started listening to Revival. I don't know if I'm going to continue it or not. The beginning really didn't do much for me. If I was going based on the first chapter, I would set this down. I might give it another couple of chapters and see if it starts becoming interesting, but like the beginning really did nothing for me. So now I'm not sure I want to continue it, but I'm going to try to get through at least one more Stephen King. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I did start this. So I'm going to give this another couple of chapters and see if it does anything for me. Like, I really want it to be good. I really like the cover. It's just so shiny. I also am starting some projects today because I finished level 10. That big project is done. And now I have a few weeks of just like catching up on other things in my life. So like I need to start lesson planning for my rising ninth grader. So I need to start doing that. And also I kept telling myself that once I finished level 10, I was going to be starting a purge my bookshelves project. So the time has come, my friends. I'm going to have to start purging my bookshelves. So I don't know. I might bring you guys along for that too. I don't know if anyone's interested to see what I pull off my shelves and get rid of, but that is a thing that I need to do starting today. So I'm probably just going to do like one shelf area at a time and just kind of go through them and start pulling things. So that's something I'm going to be working on today. So, excuse the mess, my dogs are chaos, but I made progress. These are the books that I am pulling from my shelves. It is not the 100 I hoped for. Hey, Spike. But it is 47 books that are no longer sitting on my bookshelves. So these are all going to go into store inventory, and I have a lot more shelves to get through, but I got rid of 47. So I'm pleased with that progress. Hello, it is now Tuesday, a little after noon, and I'm just checking in. I did read the second chapter of Revival, and it might be growing on me. I don't know yet. I want to get a few more chapters in, and if it's still just like not doing it for me, I'm just going to DNF it. But I'm hoping I like it because I really wanted to like this one. All I can tell you is we're following a boy named Jamie who is, I think, like 6 or 7 years old at the start of the story. And it's like 1960 something. And a new preacher comes to town and makes everybody fall in love with him and his wife. And like they're all just like drawn to him. And he has a fascination with electricity. And that's really all I know. It's really all I can tell you without like verging into spoilery stuff. But I mean, I'm only 2 chapters in. How many spoilers are there in the first 2 chapters of a book? I don't know. But I don't know like how I feel about it yet. Like the first chapter did absolutely nothing for me. But I was like, no, I'm going to do one more. And the second chapter is a little better. The chapters are so long. So I hate that. I hate books with really long chapters. So that makes it harder. But I am listening to the audio primarily. And I'm going to try to listen to a few more chapters today while I'm doing other things. I have a lot of stuff I'm working on right now. History book by book has been neglected for the last several weeks, or 2 months really, while I was working on level 10. I didn't have the bandwidth to do multiple things. So I started reading The Windaby Puzzle finally by Lois Lowry because I wanted to read it and review it for History Book by Book. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I have a database called History Book by Book where I review and collect book lists of history and historical fiction titles for all ages. So there's like lots and lots of different kinds of books for many different readers. Not all of them are reviewed, but I am trying to review as many as I can. So that is what I'm doing here. I wanted to read this book, and I only read the first section last night, and I've heard a lot of people tell me that they found this book boring, and I can see that. Just the first chapters, just laying out like the history of this body that was found in a bog, and like the speculation that the archaeologists and anthropologists had about why this child's body was left there like that with a blindfold on and that kind of thing. So like I can see that being a little boring if you're not interested in that. I found that riveting. I would have loved this. One of my favorite books as a kid was, I have it on my shelves somewhere, was this book about Mount Vesuvius. And it was written in like dual stories. So like one part of it was about the archaeologists and their discoveries as they toured like the scene at Pompeii, and another part of it was a story about a slave girl who was like experiencing the eruption, and I was obsessed. That book made me want to be an archaeologist. I wanted to like go to Pompeii and see it. But so that kind of thing is what I enjoy. So I'm kind of hoping that that's what this does. I mean, I wish there were more pictures, because the Vesuvius book was full of pictures and photography. And there is like on the end pages, it does have an image of the body that they found. So like the section I'm about to start is a story about like the author kind of imagining what happened to this girl. So far I'm definitely intrigued by this, and I'm hoping to finish that in a short amount of time so I can get it up and reviewed. But yeah, so I have so much to do today. So I also am reading an ARC that I have to read on my phone because it's a graphic novel and I cannot open that on my Kindle. So I'm reading that as quickly as I can because I think it already came out, and I meant to review it last week, but I didn't get to it for various reasons. So I'm trying to do that. I also have to work on planning out Regina's 9th grade year. Like, I have all the major pieces in place. I just need to sit down and come up with like our actual schedule and like write things out in our planner and stuff. There's just a lot to do. Also, my house is a mess because, again, while I was working on level 10, everything fell to chaos. So I need to work on like picking up and getting that stuff done. And I'm just like, ADHD brain. I don't know how to do all of these things at the same time. So I'm just kind of hoping to get things done. So anyway, I will try to check back in and let you guys know whether or not I'm going to continue Revival. And if I decide not to, I might just end the vlog here and call it good with I read 2.5 Stephen King books. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I have been working for hours. My goal today was to pull out all the books we're going to be using, all the materials, and kind of organize our cart, and then I could sit down with the materials once they're out and start like making my notes and lesson plans and stuff. Well, I started this at 2 o'clock. It is now just after 4, and I'm realizing I need another cart. Technically, I have another cart. It's just got a lot of stuff on it, and I don't know where to put that stuff. So like, I don't know what to do, but I have too much stuff to fit on our white school cart. And like, I don't really have a good place to organize things elsewhere because like we have a very small house and I own a lot of books. So like, there's just stuff everywhere already and I don't have places to put it. And I am purging my shelves and stuff, but like, there's still a lot. And so right now I'm trying to figure out what to do. And I'm kind of like over it, but like I really wanted to be done with this so that I could move on, because like this is really like holding up my ability to plan when everything's just scattered and chaotic. But like, I'll figure it out. I'm going to work on the other cart, getting it cleaned off. But right now I'm just like, I should take a break. I want to sit down and just read for a little bit and not have to think about it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to read. I'm going to relax for a little bit before I have to think anymore about organizing our school stuff. But like you can see that my cart overfloweth. There is a lot. I mean, there is a little space at the bottom, but not much. And I need to go get the rest of her independent reading to put there. But we have this situation, and we also have our binders that are in the kitchen. So it's just a lot of stuff. Okay, so I made it 3 chapters in, and I think I'm going to call it that. I don't want to read this. Like, I'm not feeling it at all. This is a story where we're following the main character, who is a small child at the beginning of the book, and his experiences throughout his life. And like I did kind of skim ahead a little, and apparently we're going to follow him throughout his entire life, basically. And then I decided to go read some reviews and see, like, do I want to just push through? Is it worth pushing through? And reviews say no, it isn't. Like, most people did not like this book, it seems. So, I mean, as much as I love the cover, I just, like, I can't do it right now. The chapters are really, really, really long. Like, so obnoxiously long. And it's so slow. Like, I'm 3 chapters in and nothing really has happened except that, like, there was this terrible accident with the pastor's family, and therein is like the end of the childhood chapters and stuff. But like, it's just not holding my interest at all. And I don't want to read something just to read it, just if I know I'm not going to like it. So I'm not going to read that. I'm DNFing. And because we are halfway through the month and I have a lot of other things to get to still, I don't know if I'm going to get to another Stephen King this month. I might still read one more thing, but it's not going to be in this vlog. So, hello, it is now Wednesday. I'm like, what day is it? It is now Wednesday, and I am full of lies because I was going to end the vlog yesterday because I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. I didn't enjoy Revival. I didn't want to continue reading it, and I wasn't sure, like, what I was going to do, if I was going to pick up another Stephen King or not. But as I was folding laundry last night, this was sticking out on my bookshelf, and I went, I could do another novella. That would be a good place to jump back in, since I just wasn't feeling Revival. I wanted something fun, and oh my gosh, I read this entire thing last night, and I absolutely loved it. And then realized there was 2 more books. I didn't know this was a trilogy. I've had this on my shelves for years. So, I'm going to need to read the other 2. But this is exactly what I wanted. This was a perfect novella. I honestly don't need more in the series, but now that I know there is more, I absolutely want to read them. So this is a book about a girl named Gwendy, who, when she's around 12 years old, she stumbles upon this man who offers her something. He gives her a box with buttons on it. And it looks very unsuspicious. It's just a box with buttons. But it offers things to her. And the buttons all, like, have a purpose, but she's not exactly clear. He doesn't tell her in detail, just that she is the one who is in charge of the box right now. And that is what kind of sets the story off. I found this fascinating. I love things like this, where it's like, you don't really know what the buttons do, and she doesn't either, but she starts to imagine what she thinks they do, and what they might be able to cause, and is the box giving her powers? Is it keeping her safe? Or is it dangerous? You follow her from like the time she's 12, when she first gets the box, until she's in her 20s. And it's just a fascinating study of like what something like that can do to you, like how it affects you emotionally, physically, mentally, the strain it puts on you, but also maybe the benefits that it derives. And it was just a really interesting story. I want more. I want more like that. So I'm definitely going to try to get my hands on the rest of the series because I want to read more of that, but that's for another time. I don't know what I'm going to pick up next. I have a lot of other things that I wanted to get to this month that I need to start reading because we're now past the halfway point in the month. So like I want to make sure that I still have time for Babel because that's book club, that I still have a chance to read a few other things. I'm still trying to read the Windaby puzzle. So like there's a bunch of stuff I still need to get to. So I might go ahead and wrap the vlog here. But yeah, I've had a really good time with Stephen King this month to go back and talk about everything that I read. I started out with Elevation, which is another novella, and I didn't love it, but it was fine. This was more of a drama than a scary kind of story. There was no horror in this, and it was interesting. I gave this 3 stars. Then I read The Long Walk, which is more dystopian than horror, but it's also very disturbing. So I definitely would consider this part of the horror realm. And I really enjoyed it. It's a really great story. I took a walk the other night with my husband and I was like, taking a walk, really, it feels different after reading this. But I really enjoyed this. It's a book that I think I'm going to think about for a long time to come. And I gave it 4 stars. I started and then DNF'd Revival. This was not for me. I don't know if I'll ever come back to it. It did absolutely nothing for me. And it has pretty bad reviews overall. So I don't know that I'm going to come back to it. I got 3 chapters in and just went, nah. So that was a DNF. But then I came back to another book and found a complete win. This is Gwendy's Button Box. He wrote it with Richard Chizmar, and I gave this 5 stars. This was by far the favorite of the Stephen King I read this month. So I read 3 and like a quarter things, and I feel pretty good about that. So if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, let me know, what is your favorite Stephen King? I still want to try to come back and read The Stand. I just don't know when I'll have time because it's such a beast. That is still what I would consider my favorite Stephen King. The Stand, with a close second being It. Those are my 2 absolute favorite Stephen King. So let me know, what is your favorite Stephen King? I would love to know. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.